Hey, what's going on? It's Dr. Mike T. Nelson here. I'm doing a little demo here. This is my barbell for how to do some cool stuff with glute activation. So what we're going to do is do some of the RPR or B activated work to wake up the muscles in a specific area. And then this will be our barbell to do an exercise. So the main exercises, if you're trying to get your glutes to work, are obviously your glutes. And then the muscle on the opposite side, which is going to be your psoas. So your psoas is going to go from the inner part of your leg through your pelvis. It actually goes into your low back, attaches on the front and the back of your lumbar spine. And then the fibers actually disappear up into your diaphragm. So I first got that from Ron Haraska at PRI, and then Tom Myers talks about it. Kind of looks like the head of a cobra. And then the other one is going to be the diaphragm, because the psoas, the hip flexor, goes into the diaphragm, and the diaphragm is actually the opposite of the core. Right? So if you think of your core as the diaphragm's the top part on the can, you have your abs in the front, you have your internal and external obliques on the side, muscles on the back, and then the bottom is the pelvic floor. So the three main muscles are your glutes, your psoas, and then also the diaphragm. So what we're going to do to show you how to make sure they're working appropriately, I'm going to do some of the RPR work. What we're going to do is just take your hand just like this, put your little thumb right on the end. So the spot we're going to do for the diaphragm, you've probably seen in other videos, is like an upside down Y. So you're going to start at the sternum, and you're basically just going to kind of move the skin around. It's actually a fascial layer, and just make sure that all kind of moves kind of nicely. So just kind of go through there. It takes around 30 seconds or so. You can kind of go off to the side even a little bit. If you find some spots that are sticky, you can get fancy, go on the side of the pectoralis if you want to. So next spot is just the bottom parts of the ribs. Usually in this area, you're actually just going to go primarily up and down. It's usually not as sticky side to side. So I'm going to have my hand here. I'm going to be right on the bottom part of my ribs, and I'm just going up and down right over the top part of the ribs. You can feel like on this side, like right in this area is kind of crunchy. You'll feel it's like a little bit more sensitive. And you'll find some real nice crunchy stuff on the sides there. Not a huge amount of pressure, but it can be a little sensitive. And just follow the ribs all the way around. You can even do kind of on the side too, it's a little bit harder to get to. Both sides. So I'm just kind of going up and down here all the way through. 30 to 60 seconds. If you find some spots that are really sticky, you can do that a little bit longer. So that's primarily working to get the diaphragm to move better. So there are two spots primarily for the psoas. So find your just belly button right in the middle, go about halfway out right in there, and you're just kind of, feels a little weird, just kind of going around in a circle. You may find some spots that are kind of tight there, and same thing on the other side. So again, not huge pressure, but a little bit of pressure. Sometimes it feels a little bit kind of uncomfortable in that area. And then the other parts for the glutes, glute max, is, if you can see, it's actually the back part of the head. So if I find the back part of my ear, I find this spot where my skull goes down, and I feel across where it starts to come and go across. So right at that angle, I'm going to use my thumb, and I'm just going to try to kind of push up on that tissue. So what I want to do is get that tissue that's kind of all right around that area to kind of slide around pretty nicely. I can even get fancier and go kind of across the bottom there. And then I want to do the same thing on the other side. If you're doing this on yourself, sometimes you can kind of hold your head on the opposite side there. Sometimes you go up a little bit further here. So I just want to make sure that that tissue actually moves around pretty good. And as weird as that is, that's primarily for your glute max. So your glute max is the main muscle, that's your butt from behind. So we've done those drills to kind of wake up the muscles of the psoas, the diaphragm, and also the glute max. You can get up, walk around a little bit. Next thing you can do is play around with an exercise that's kind of a light isometric. And the other trick is when we're holding that isometric exercise, we want to do what's called belly breathing. So real simply, if I have one hand here on my stomach, one hand here up on my chest, a lot of people breathe more from their upper chest. And what we want to do is primarily breathe more from our belly. Now, that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but for our purposes here, it works fine. So you can do sometimes what's called a high-low breathing. One hand over your chest, one hand over your stomach. Initially do this laying down is easier. And as I inhale, my stomach hand should move more than my upper hand. So what we're going to do is this belly breathing at the top of an exercise. So the exercise I like to use for teaching is a barbell hip thrust. So shout out to Mr. Brett Contreras on that. So pretend this is my barbell for the sake of shooting the video here. I'll have my shoulders kind of about mid-scapular right into a bench that's not going to slide. So the staircase works pretty fine for demos. What I'm going to do then is once I have the barbell right over my hips, sometimes a bar pad works well, I'm going to then come all the way up to the top motion here. I'm going to do a nice isometric contraction with my glutes. My hip flexors have to relax. And then I'm just going to belly breathe in that position. And as I'm belly breathing, I want to be contracting my glutes as hard as I can. So I'll do maybe 3 to 5 belly breaths in that position, and then come back down. So what you're teaching with that is you're teaching how your hips your glute can contract, the psoas in the front can release, and you can do this independent of breathing. So you're not necessarily adding a huge amount of tension here. You want to be able to belly breathe in that position. So again, start with a very lightweight. Don't do this with a max weight to start. And this is a pretty good exercise to teach you how your glutes to contract, try to get your psoas to release, and then how to do a more relaxing, quote-unquote, belly breath in that position. What you'll find is when you go to transfer this to do your other exercises, that your glutes will work a lot better and it should feel a lot easier. So let me know how it goes.